You know how sometimes your husband does something you just can't believe he would do? Well, Emma's husband made a risky job move when he knew she did not approve. She was so scared and resentful that so much of the responsibility fell on her. But she decided to follow a proven formula to fix her marriage. So there was no nagging, no lectures, just a few surprising phrases and a little bit of duct tape. And guess what happened? Her resentment vanished. Her trust grew. And now her husband not only provides well, he also brings her flowers just because. Want to know how she did it? Well, you're about to find out. If you want to have your own handy guide to follow along with, get the free Adored Wife Roadmap on lauradoyle.org/roadmap. It's lauradoyle.org/roadmap. My guest, Emma, was seething with resentment towards her husband because he took a risky job offer that he knew she didn't approve of. But she decided to start experimenting with some duct tape and some other skills. And today she fully trusts her hardworking husband, who brings her flowers for no special reason. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Emma, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, Laura. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, I love to start in the bad old days and hear about what was going wrong in your marriage.
Yes. So I'm going to kind of start with a preface with, I thought I had a wonderful marriage. I love my husband. We have 2 beautiful kids already before I started Empowered Wife. And I thought I had a great marriage. Well, in April of 2023, my hairstylist, whom I love, she talked to me about the Empowered Wife. And I thought, okay, I don't need it. I'm fine. And she even said to me, she was like, no, I know, like my marriage is fine too, but this is just really helps, with yourself and building on yourself. And I still kind of was like, no, don't need it. I also found out I was pregnant with our 3rd child in April of 2023. And so fast forward to the fall of 2023, about beginning of October, my husband was thinking of making a job shift to the family business. And I was very pregnant, and we had lengthy discussions, maybe even call it State of the Union addresses, about this potential job change. And then he went on a business trip with his siblings to kind of solidify his feelings of really wanting to jump in and do it. It just didn't sit well with me. It worried me to be doing a business with family. It worried me because it's a big pay cut. It was going to put a lot of the insurance on me and my job. And obviously we were bringing our 3rd child into the world. So I just really did not sit well. Fast forward a little bit to November, the week of Thanksgiving of 2023, my dad was hospitalized, and we didn't know if he was going to be okay. And for some reason, my husband's brother gave him a deadline of the day before Thanksgiving to say, you need to give us an answer of whether you're going to be in or out. And I couldn't believe it. I was 37 weeks pregnant. My dad was in the hospital. I was up at the hospital. I was trying to also work. I had to deal with work stuff. And luckily my work family is phenomenal. So they, covered for me that week. But here he was saying, I need to give my brother an answer. And my dad was in the hospital, and it was the week of Thanksgiving. And I was just like, I felt backed into a corner. I felt like if I said no, he would resent me for, blocking him from this opportunity that he felt what he felt was an opportunity. I did not feel that way at the time. And at the end of the day, I said, you're going to do what you want to do. I don't like it, but what can I do about it?
So your answer really was no, even though he didn't say no. He knew.
Basically, yeah, you're right. Like he knew I was not okay with it. I was very disapproving. Like I said, we talked about it in such great lengths leading up to that moment, to that decision. And I just remember calling one of my best friends after he was like, I'm going to tell him yes. And I just left the house. I didn't say a word. And I just sobbed because I was scared. I mean, I was scared. I was emotionally just totally down from that whole week. I couldn't believe he was doing it. It was bad. But alas, yeah.
Hard. It sounds so scary. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Especially, like I said, we were bringing our third baby into the world, and she was actually a miracle child. Our first two were fertility, which that will come up again later after the skills come into play. And so she was a miracle non-fertility child. And anyway, so fast forward to her birth, 2.5 weeks later, it was joyous. And I should mention the job thing was put on hold. So this also comes into play. He took the new job with the family company, but wanted to wait until April to before he started, because with his old company, he was expecting a bonus and he wanted to wait till after that bonus came in. And so anyway, the job thing kind of went to the back burner on my mind. Our daughter was born and it was beautiful time. It was the end of 2023 and just, magical, and had a wonderful maternity leave. And then April 2023 rolls around and that's when he was quitting his job, his cushy, job, and moving to the family small business. And that month, when I tell you he could not do anything right to please me, I just found everything under the sun that he was doing wrong. And my example is I go out to dinner with friends, maybe like once a month. And in April of 2023, I went out to dinner with my friends, and I came home and the house was just like, the dinner dishes were still out. The kitchen was a mess and the living room had toys everywhere. And I thought he knew that I love to go to bed with a clean kitchen, clean living, just a reset for the day. I stomped upstairs so fast, busted into our bedroom, and I was like, seriously, you can't even clean? And I just snapped. And he was like, or the kids are in bed, they're fed, they're happy, I played with them. I said, no, I lost my marbles. And that's just one example of what he couldn't do right that month. And I don't know what moment of clarity that I had, but I had a moment of just, I don't know if I realized of self-awareness, but I realized that I needed to change. I needed to do something for me. And that's when I remembered and talked to my hairstylist again. And she's like, well, I told you about the Empowered Wife. And I was like, okay, you're right. I actually had bought it. So I pulled it out and I devoured it in one day. And I couldn't believe, I felt like I was reading about me. The complaining, the criticisms, the harboring of the resentment. And I realized that because that week, those 3 weeks in April that I couldn't stand him, it just matched with my resentment to the fact that, thinking back to, November when he made that decision, when I was pregnant, so pregnant, and my dad was ill. And that book helped me so much realize that resentment was stemming from that time. And I went to him and I apologized. I said, I'm really sorry for disrespecting you, for deciding to do this job. I trust you. I believe in you. And I want you to know that, because he had said, it feels like you don't believe in me back, November. And so he was kind of like looking around like, me? So, and then I just tried little snippets from there. So in May, I wrote out my desire list, my self-care list, which actually I owe to you, is volleyball. Yeah, I know.
Why? Right? Okay.
Well, and it's so true. I played all through high school, college, even after college.
Oh,
Me and my husband played on a team when we were engaged, early marriage. And then I got pregnant with our first. And I stopped. I even coached volleyball and I loved it. And I stopped. And for 8 years, I didn't realize I was even missing it. And so I went out on the ledge and I reached out to a group of my girlfriends thinking, no way, none of these other moms are going to be able to do volleyball once a week. Well, they all jumped on it. And so all this summer, we played volleyball once a week and I coached again. And all the while, my husband supported me through all of these things. And then I experimented with duct tape. I realized what I'm doing is not helpful when he talks about work or his work issues or anything like that. So I just didn't say anything. And he would talk himself sometimes out of what I wanted him to talk himself out of, or himself into what I would. But all the while, I didn't say a word. So I'm like, wow, if I would have just shut up, he would have gotten to the same place that what I wanted it to.
Without you telling him what your opinion was or what you thought he should do, he would just cut himself.
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
Did he notice like that you were being more quiet?
He did. He took a notice to it. And actually in June of this year of 2024, we were out on my back porch and he was saying, I was talking to my friend and I was telling him how you suddenly are just more, you just keep saying you trust me and you thank me all the time. And his third example was, and I just listened to him. I don't offer helpful advice anymore.
Wow.
And he quotationed helpful advice. And he was like, so what is, what's going on? And I was like, I'm working on myself and I tried to not really tell him. He knew I was listening to podcasts more. And your podcasts are phenomenal because they're just real life examples and they really helped me apply the skills. And I just really enjoyed that. And I just looking back at all the things and like the fertility thing I mentioned before, when, I have PCOS, and when I was going through our fertility, it just was kind of blow after blow. And he would say things like, well, maybe we should focus on eating healthier and more exercise. Well, you couldn't tell me that for Madam.
Yeah.
I would blow a gasket.
Yeah. I know. I kind of cringed when you said that too.
Oh, right?
Right.
Cringy.
Sometimes you need chocolate,
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah. And he, never disagreed with that. But he would try to say like, well, maybe just like, let's meal prep. And I'd be like, you're crazy. That'll never help me, all these things. Well, lo and behold. And then we went through IVF and we put up, all that money and time and effort and emotional and physical turmoil for me. And he supported me through all that. And he, lo and behold, the way I think I got pregnant with our third is I had changed my diet. I had started exercising after our second was born. And he was like, wow, this is a miracle. And like, you didn't say it. And I was like, I know, I think you were right. I finally admitted this year after the skills were applied, I said, I think you were right. And he goes, wow, you don't say. But it makes me weepy because he, he could have pushed and said, no, we're not going through fertility. Like, this is too much on you. But he didn't. He just kept supporting me and just was amazing. And I look back at all these things that he does for me and our family. And I think, wow, like I've never noticed him before. And that's something else I changed about myself is I thank him a lot. Like I hate unloading the dishwasher. Well, he does it every morning. And all I said was, I would love to not unload the dishwasher, which isn't really the best way to word it, but
pretty good.
It worked.
It worked. He got it.
Yeah. We'll count it.
Yeah.
And then, I think about back to a few examples of I was not a gracious receiver. He would bring home flowers and he would bring home, the dyed daisies, like the bright neon dyed ones.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, what are these? And I would like, I wouldn't even say, and then I'd be like, oh no, sorry. Yeah, thanks. These are great. And like, but I'd be like, these are terrible. These are ugly. Well, I stopped getting flowers from him, except for like, the occasional anniversary flower, bouquet. But then this summer I think it started in July, he came home from the store and he just had a bouquet of flowers and nothing close to us is in July. We don't have an anniversary, not my birthday, nothing like that. And I was like, so I was a very gracious receiver. They were actually pretty, which is good. That's a sidebar, but he did good. And then I just, was so thankful. And then a month later, I got another bouquet. And again, August is nothing special. We don't have anything special going on. And my son was excited to give them to him. And I guess he said, Daddy said we should get you some more flowers because you like flowers in the kitchen now. And I said, I do. I love it. So now it's just become kind of their thing. So I get flowers almost every month now. And it's just, and I've never had that, he never did that. So it just makes me really appreciate him and the skills that I've been able to apply to our marriage and really help us, get over those little silly bicker moments that sometimes would end in Cold Wars or, I think about the resentment that I held with his job and he is so happy there.
He's so happy.
Yeah. He's so happy and he's busy and he works sometimes outside of his work hours, but I know that that's because he's a provider. Like that's what he wants for our family. And, he hasn't made me change much of our everyday life. And that's something he promised he would do, over a year ago. And I didn't believe him. I was like, no way you let us, continue on how we are or take vacations and, live, do day trips or whatever. And he was like, no, it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. I will figure it out. And it's just, and he has, and it's, I just owe a lot more to him than I ever could have realized before I took on the skills. So yeah. Oh, and sorry, another one that I just thought of, relinquishing control. So my in-laws, so as you imagine, I had a little bit of resentment towards my brother-in-law.
Oh yeah.
For deadline that he knew
while you're pregnant, while your father was in the hospital, like.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew what was going on.
And he probably knew you didn't want your husband to take the job. So
Correct.
he was kind of, okay, yeah.
So I was still harboring a lot of resentment for that. And wasn't a big fan of his wife either. And they were planning for my in-laws and everybody, all of us to get together to go to a very odd location for like a long weekend, just for all of us to be under one roof. And it was very difficult for me because I like to be in control of planning vacations and planning those types of things. I have a really weird, I'm not an only child, but my siblings are older. So I grew up kind of like an only child. And I have a really weird thing. I need my own bathroom for trips. I'm a private gal, I guess. And that was my only thing. I said, you know what? Yeah, let's go. I used to push back, and I've given him every reason to make a fight out of going on trips with his family, or just even a weekend, a night with his family. I would push back for XYZ reasons. And so this trip, I said, my only ask is that our family has our own bathroom. That's the only thing. And so I got that. And on the trip, like I said, normally I'd be off my rocker with trying to figure out activities to do. Where can we go? What can we do while we're there? I did none of it. I went on this trip, and it was in August, and he figured everything out. And it was last minute. It was like we were walking out the door, and sometimes we didn't know where we were going. And but I was in such a better place mentally because I was able to use my skills. I knew I could go on a walk, which is one of my self-care items that I do now. I think I walked like 20,000 steps on that trip, like per day, because I was like, I need to go for a walk. Anytime I would be like overwhelmed with my in-laws, I'd be like, I gotta go for a walk. So yeah, I was able to let go of needing that control of trips. And like that proved to myself that, because like even for our dates, I want control of where we go, what we do. And I let go of that. I'd say, hey, I got a babysitter for this weekend coming up. I don't have anything planned. And then he would be like, it would be that day. And he'd be like, do we know what we're doing tonight? I said, oh no, I just got the babysitter. I have nothing planned. And he would decide what we should do. And it was the same thing every time. It was 3 times in a row. We'd go to an amusement park, but we had passes, and I was like, we'd end up having a great time. And so it was just, it's been, well, not to say I feel dramatic, but it's been life-changing. It truly has. And I try to tell my friends who are open about it, because like my hairstylist said, she's like, you can't do it if you're not ready. Like you can't, if you're not open to the idea of it, then it's not going to, work, or you're not going to welcome it. And I will say, one of my best friends, I was telling her about this, and I knew she'd be open to it. And I was telling her about it in like May, I think, or June of this year. And she did what I did. And she was like, okay, don't need it, but thanks. Well, she went through a little bit of a rough patch in fall and a couple months ago, and she picked up the book, and now we Marco Polo each other. And she's like, you will be so proud of me. I ignored this tiff with my husband. I let him go. He went to bed, and then we woke up and everything was fine. And it's just, and it's like, I didn't have to get the last word in, and I didn't have to. And so it's nice to have that accountability. It's just been, it has been life-changing. I have to admit it.
Well, and there's no better feeling really than knowing you helped someone else in her marriage too, right? Like you are, I mean, yeah, you've changed her life as well. It's not
Yes,
like,
exactly. And they were in a bad place. And it's so nice because we both agree, like, we contributed, we're not placing blame on ourselves for, you know, any fights or arguments that we've had or anything like that. But it has made it easier to see how you can contribute to the blow ups if there are blow ups. And to be honest, that's another thing with my husband is he has like had a major blow up, which I use quotations, because they're not even that bad for him. But I look back at it's been maybe 3 of them, the entire 12 years of our marriage. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I pushed him to the moment that he lost his mind. And he is the most cool, calm, collected man. He always is level-headed, always just easygoing and just so helpful and so thoughtful and supportive. But I know if I keep pushing him that he'll get there. And so I look back at those moments, and usually they were early on in our marriage. And I just look back at those and I'm like, what could I have done where would we be differently today if I would have had this book long ago? But I can't think like that because where we are today is just perfect where we are. Yeah. And I have another example, like Chris example, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
So just last week, and my best friend can attest to this moment because I was Marco Polo videoing her like crazy. But last week, with 3 kids, and a mom, like being a mom, I am just like, I need to make Christmas perfect. We're hosting.
Sure.
We have all these parties. I need to make these appetizers for this party and get ready for our party that we're hosting. And this family needs this. We need to bake cookies. We need to bake the breakfast casserole. I need to wrap all the packages. I have all the packages, but I need to wrap all of them. When am I going to find the time? And then, my self-care was blown. Well, my husband decided that he needed to take off work on December 23rd to go for an all-day hike with his cousin. Because he was feeling burnt out. And Laura, I said, yeah, for sure, just go. But man, that day, the resentment just festered and I kept squandering it. And I knew what I needed. I needed time to myself. Because I had been with the kids 24/7 and I knew what I needed, but like, I didn't know when I could do it. And he got home from his hike and he was all refreshed and spring chicken. And I was like, what? I'm sorry, but we have a party to go to now and I have to bring the appetizer and it's to your parents, your families. And I sat at that party. I was mingled for a little while and then I just went upstairs and I zoned out of like totally zoned out because I was like, I can't be like, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And the next day was Christmas Eve and I had errands to run still. And he was like, I'll keep the kids home and you just go by yourself. He's like, and go take a walk after you're done if you can. And I was like, okay. So I did all my errands and I felt the weight lifting off of my shoulders because I didn't have to get, a baby in and out or toddler, whatever. And I went on an hour walk. I walked for 4.5 miles and I felt so much better. But then I come home and he's just lounging on the couch and the house is a mess. And I feel myself. Yeah. I was like, oh God. And he's like, I know the house is a mess. Well, that Christmas Eve morning, he's like, just so you know, I plan to help you clean the house today too. And I said, okay. And that's when I did my errands, did my walk. And I come home and I was expecting, which I shouldn't have. I should have let the expectation go.
Yeah.
I was expecting to clean a house. And when it wasn't, I almost lost my marbles. And I was manically texting my friend, like, I am venting to you because I'm going to lose it if I don't have you to talk to. And she was trying to talk me down. And she was like, what can you do? Can you go on another walk? Can you take a nap? Do you need a nap? Because that's what my husband was doing as he was laying on the couch taking a nap.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God, how can you be so calm? So what I did is I put things away. I just put my errands, what I had gotten from my errands away, and I left the mess. And I went and I laid on our bed and I watched a show for an hour. I took a little cat nap, and our toddler and baby were napping too, I should add. But
correct.
I woke up, and then he was up and he was starting to kind of tidy up. And then we joined together, and then we turned on Christmas music, and then we had a great time cleaning up the house together. And I was like, I could have really ruined Christmas had I not just, not known what I needed. And he knew what I needed too, which is kind of a new thing that he has picked up on. This weekend, we were supposed to go to a football game together, and he couldn't because he didn't feel well. He had a cold, which we all know, the man cold. And he was like, you should still go. Like, you should still go and have fun. Take your cousin. You guys will have a great time. I'll stay home with the kids. And he's like, you need to go have fun. And I just, yeah. So it's like he, what's the word I'm looking for? He knows. Yeah. Yes. He anticipates my needs now, sometimes better than I can. Cause I almost told him, like, no, I don't want to go without you. Like, it was supposed to be with me and you. And he was like, no, just find someone to go with you. Like, you need to go have fun, enjoy it. And I'm glad I did. Anyway, so that was my most recent example of, using the skills and knowing my self-care needs. And, yeah. So,
it's amazing because it does sound like, I know you're saying he knows better than you even, but really what I hear is you are prioritizing, like, that's your first question. You're like, okay, I'm really upset now. Who wouldn't be when you walk in and the house is just right after he said, I'm going to help you clean, right? Like, who wouldn't be? You were already in the Christmas hustle and feeling the pressure and the stress. But for you to say, like, and you've been on a walk, like, you could have said, well, I got to go out by myself and I got to go on a walk. So, like, that's all I have. But no, I think just going up on your bed to watch a show, that's huge. That's actually an act of courage in a way, right? Because you could have said, kids are napping. This is my chance to get the house straightened up.
Yes.
Instead, you did.
I've learned too, if I don't, I think another woman said this on your podcast, but it was like, I've learned that if I don't do something, my husband doesn't give me grief for it. He never once has he said, wow, I come home and I expected the house to be clean. Never once has he said that. And I come home and that's what I say, way back before the skills, that's what I would do. I would light him up for not having the house clean. And that's how I would greet him. And that's another thing I changed is I greet him happily now. And my son runs to him every day, greeting him now. And like my oldest does the same. And our youngest is happy too, but she's just a baby still. But yeah.
She can't. Can we run to you?
Yeah. Can't run yet.
No. But that wasn't happening before? There wasn't like it?
Not as much, no. And I again owe it to the skills. Smile campaign. I started greeting him with, hey, how was your day? I'm so glad you're home. Instead of, oh my God, the kids were terrible today. Let me tell you about it. Or, oh my God, you'll never believe what happened. And that's what I used to do. And so my kids, like you say, you are the neck of the household. You decide what direction, what emotion is going to feed. And so now, I don't run technically I don't run to the door, but I get up. Like if I'm sitting on the couch snuggling the kids, I get up off the couch and I go, and like my son felt like now it's a fun excitement, instead of a criticism or complaint to him. So
Oh, wow.
it's been amazing. And he, like I said, I can't tell you a time where he's come home and he'd expect, dinner or a clean house or anything like that. He has always been so grateful. He's like, oh, I noticed you cleaned our bathroom today. Thank you so much. Like he does it. He has been doing that long time before I started to, but now he does it even more. And we're just feeding off of each other. And it's just, again, I look back and I think, man, I'm so lucky. I'm just so lucky to have him, and so lucky that he didn't leave me a long time ago for how sometimes I treated him. Just, not so bad, but I never treated him with the respect that he craves and that I didn't know he needed. So, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's just beautiful, Emma. I'm so impressed with what you've done because you make it sound pretty easy to apologize for being disrespectful and to and I mean, I especially love about your story. It was kind of like it was the moment you lost your dignity, right? You went upstairs and kind of and you lost it. Like, yeah, I mean, I've definitely done it, and that was the moment that you actually turned to yourself instead of saying like, that. What a loser. He's such an idiot, right? Like he doesn't, you were like, that's not how I want to show up. This isn't
Correct.
feel good to me.
I don't know how I did that.
I don't know either. I was going to, that was my question.
Honest.
How did you
I don't know. I must have had a moment of postpartum clarity. I don't know what it was, and you said idiot, and I used to call him an idiot all the time in my bickering moments. And it's just been so nice to have these skills and put these in place. And again, feel like I have to say for the record, I am not great at this. Sometimes I go through walls where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said anything. I should have used duct tape here. It happens, and I can feel, and it's crazy though, because now I feel that loss of intimacy, even though it wasn't a big deal, I can still feel it now. Like that energy shifts a little bit, and I'm like, oh shoot, how can I turn this around? So yeah, thank you is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I love that. You're welcome. I mean, I was so inspired because that's a sort of a sensitivity. Well, that's that exact moment you can be in where, like, I just know for me, I could either just be like, well, it's his fault. He's the one. And, if it wasn't for him, if he would do this, this, and this, then everything would be fine. And so for you to go, oh gosh, I could have used duct tape, or I wish I would have. Or to feel the loss of dignity or the loss of intimacy is a pretty big deal, right? That's new. That wasn't happening before.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a painful, that first moment where you decide to take accountability is hard.
It is hard. It's very hard. And it's a little bit of tail between the legs, I used to, me and him used to Cold War it out. We used to be so stubborn to see who would say sorry first. And I would be like, well, like you were saying, like, nope, this is on him. This is not my fault.
Yeah.
He needs to apologize to me. And I mean, we would go sometimes a couple days. And now I'm like, okay, what can I apologize for so that we can get this on our way? And there has been many times where I open that apology door, even if it just is sawdust pouring out of my mouth. I fake it sometimes, but it always turns it around. And so it's like, well, why wouldn't I? Why would I continue to be stubborn when I know this is just the first step? I just need to take that first step in order for him to meet me halfway, because he always ends up meeting me halfway, if not farther onto my side. And yeah.
So, yeah, so you have developed this humility, is what it sounds like, right? Which is not that easy to come by. And when you show up with that accountability and humility and just apologizing, not for anything he did, but just for your part, whatever it is.
Yep.
And that he responds in kind. So he apologizes too?
He does. This actually just happened a month ago or so. I honestly can't even remember what the argument was about. But we were kind of at a Cold War, and it was about his family. One of our nephews and our oldest are the same age, and there just been some issues with him in the past and our daughter. And I always say that he has a blind spot for his family. And when things go wrong with his family, he has a blind spot for them. And I get triggered, and he gets triggered. And so which I hate those words, but so there was a situation where he wanted our oldest to come with us to a company Christmas party. And I was like, no, I want her to stay here with the little kids and the babysitter, because she's old enough to kind of be able to tell the babysitter what needs to be done and all this stuff. And he was like, he just immediately went on the defense because it was his family. And he didn't blow up per se, but he escalated it into like, well, this is ridiculous. Like, why wouldn't you just let our daughter come? Like, is it, just immediately went on the defense, immediately escalated. And then I started to come back with it. Yeah. And then I went out to dinner. I was worked up, and I went out to dinner, and I talked to my friend. And by the time I came back to dinner with my friends, I had calmed down, and I went in and I said, hey, I'm really sorry. It was bedtime. The kids were in bed. And I said, I'm so sorry for giving you a reason to blow up. I know that in the past, I've always given you a reason to get defensive when it comes to your family, because I, for whatever reason, have always had XYZ issues with things. I was like, but this time, I'm very sorry, and I trust that, this will be fine. And well, he didn't respond to me. And I was like, he just kind of said, okay, and rolled over and went to bed. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right. So I woke up the next morning still kind of mad that he didn't respond to me. And we work out not together, but congruently in the mornings.
Yeah.
And he made a joke to me, and I was like, okay. So I joked back, and then we kind of talked, and then we had breakfast and coffee, and then he was walking out the door to go to work. And he said, I'm really sorry for escalating it. I know that, I know I shouldn't have. And he was about to say, but, and then he stopped himself. He's like, I'm just really sorry. And then he was like, love you. And then we kissed, and he went to work, and it was fine. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
So yeah, it's just, he's such a good guy. And I'm so lucky he is in my corner.
oh, he sounds like a great guy for sure. But I'm also just noticing, like, you sound so empowered to create peace in your home. When it could be tense. It could be a Cold War. It could blow up, and you're making a different decision.
Yes, and it's so worth it. Like I said before, it's worth that first step forward to get, even if it's sawdust in your mouth, to apologize and start that hopeful snowball effect without an expectation. I think that's key too. I've learned, yes, to lower the expectation or have no expectations. And then you're almost always pleasantly surprised with the outcome. So, so anyway.
So good. Well, Emma, I'm so impressed with what you've created in your beautiful family. And it does sound like it does sound very life-changing. And there's 5 people that are in this story, right? That get affected by the mood in your house. Like when the Cold Wars are going on, those 3 littles, they're feeling the whole thing. And
Me too.
how do you think this has impacted your kid?
I will say, and this is something I forgot I did want to talk about. So my oldest, there's a bit of an age gap because of our fertility issues. She's 5 years older than our son and almost 8 years older than our youngest. And me and my oldest, she is a carbon copy of my husband, but me and her have a lot of, we're very close. She's very close with me. And I, in the past, have been outwardly disrespectful to my husband in front of her, whether it's like an eye roll or questioning his decisions or saying, no, that's stupid. Dad's an idiot. Don't do that. Things that are just so disrespectful. And I noticed once I started doing the skills that my husband would say something funny, joking or something silly, and she would just roll her eyes. And I was like, oh, shoot. So I have started now just talking so positively of my husband and making sure she hears me saying nothing but kind and good things and seeing me respect him in front of, like, if he makes a decision that, he got her a BB gun this year out of the blue and I didn't know he was doing it. And I was like, okay. And I just didn't say a word. And she was so excited to tell me about it. And so I let her and I said, that's great. That's good. And I just walked away because I just had to trust it. He's smart. He knows he's whatever. But I've noticed her shift a little bit and she doesn't roll her eyes anymore. She now runs and welcomes him at the door, or gives him a happy greeting, whereas before she really wasn't. And she was really just feeling what she was feeding into my feelings or my emotions of not greeting him kindly, or not that I was mean, but like I said, I would be like, oh my God, this day, I can't wait for it to be out. Oh, my car broke, I had a flat tire. I can't believe, all these things. And so she has really started to shift and have more respect. And now, they're getting closer and it's been awesome to see and to kind of help her, let her know, like, you can say things nicely. I would love if, XYZ. And telling her, I'm trying to think of all the, telling her how important self-care is. Because she'll sometimes say to me, why do you go to volleyball every week? Why are you doing that? And I said, well, when you get older and when you have kids, you have to find pockets of time for yourself so that I am a better mom to take care of you. And, I think she really gets it. So, yeah, so that's been great. And I'm hoping to do better about putting my skills to work with her, because sometimes I'm not good with the duct tape with her. I offer immediately want to offer her all the insights that I've ever lived through. Sometimes I'm better at it than others, but yeah, it's cool to be able to still know that she's young enough that I can help her with the skills. the way she treats her dad, or my husband, and how she can maybe treat her future relationships. So
what a gift. What a gift. Yeah. The relationship with her dad, I can just imagine how much improvement there is in that relationship because of her, you modeling, this is how we him. Dad's not an idiot, right? He's, but let me ask you this though, as a mom, so I kind of detect some disapproval in your voice about the BB gun, right? Like this is not, you wouldn't have wished for it. It sounds like you'd rather not have it in your house, maybe, or he didn't consult you. He didn't say, I'm thinking about getting her this.
So he did say, I'm thinking about getting our daughter a BB gun. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I remember just saying, okay, I think I said, whatever you think. I actually think I said that at that moment. And I think it was at our doorstep.
And then you said what?
I think it was at our doorstep the next day.
Oh.
So like, so yeah. I will say that has been another hard thing to relinquish control of. There are a lot of things that I wouldn't think to do. But this is the beautiful thing about the skills that I learned is that's the difference between a mom and a dad. And he has actually said this in the past. And I was like, okay. But now I'm like, oh, I see it. But, a mom, from my perspective, a mom's job is to protect and nurture and just really protect her kids. And a dad's job, from our perspective, is to push them outside their comfort zone, to make them live their limits. Wow. Outside their limits. And that is literally what we do. And so I have had to learn, it's not easy. It's very difficult. Because he'll let them do these, what I consider dangerous things, but it's like, walking on a balance beam or walking on a wall by themselves. And it's like, okay. Or like my daughter wanted rollerblades and he was like, yeah, just let her go out on our driveway and it was fine. And I was like, okay, all right. I wasn't here for it. So like, I know it'll be fine. Sometimes I do have to take myself out of the equation because if I'm not around it, if I don't see it, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
That's sometimes how I best enact the skills is, you know what? You go and you do that. I'm going to go read a book or, go run an errand, like take a walk. So I will say that is the difficult, but also the beautiful part that I've learned is to appreciate that is his job. I don't want to protect. I remember thinking this actually is I was protecting our kids from him, which makes no sense now that I think about it. But I was protecting them from him because I thought, there's no way. He's not going to protect them like I protect them. He's not going to keep them safe like I keep them safe. And while, there's maybe a little bit of truth to that from a mom perspective, from a dad perspective, he would throw himself into, lava for us. Like it just,
yeah.
So that's been a difficult mom, dad, using the skills that way. But yeah, so that is a difficult piece of the pie.
That is super. I'm so moved to hear like all the appreciation you have for his job as a dad and how you're letting him have that. And you're letting your kids have that.
Yeah. It's taking me a long time to get there.
Sure. Yeah. No, but I mean, you said whatever you think to the BB gun, and that sounded like it was a big stretch, right? So,
right.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, then the roller
you fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and it's
what I'm doing.
You're deciding, yeah, you're making a decision to
Yes.
respect his parenting as opposed to just imposing. Like it really seems right, I think, to us as women. Like, oh no, 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 no. We don't have BB guns in our house, right? Like, yeah. Well, you're not doing that, right? That it seems totally reasonable, but there's this other beautiful piece that you just described for us that gets lost, which is him making them all that they can be and having an adventure in life. And
Yes. And and I will admit he pushes me to enjoy things that I never thought I'd enjoy or want to enjoy. So he does that for all of us. And I don't tell him enough how appreciative of that I am. Cause gosh, heaven forbid I admit that, but, but so maybe someday soon I'll admit it out loud.
wow, so
I
good.
don't want his ego to go too big, but
No, I know, right? And that is a legit thing. I just remember that coming up for me too. Like,
yeah,
think all these things. He's gonna think he doesn't have to do anything, or
right.
yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate him. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, because I don't want him to get go a step farther. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's
So
been great.
what do you think you would say to somebody who says, well, my husband's kind of an idiot. I come home and the house is destroyed and he just doesn't even notice the mess, and he's doing inappropriate things with the kids, and he, with like BB guns, and he just is taking a pay cut and like putting a lot of pressure on me, even though I'm pregnant and I'm my father's in the hospital. Like I just think this guy's just out of touch. Like I married an idiot, and we have 3 kids, and it's all on me. And what would you say? She wants what you have now, right? Where he brings you flowers just because, just in July and just in August, just because, not for anything special. But yeah, there's just this beautiful connection where he's also anticipating your needs.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think I would tell her to dig deeper, look at yourself, turn and look at yourself, because even if you think your marriage and your own self-image is doing well, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. And you think he's an idiot now, but when has he led you down a terrible path? You can call him an idiot all you want, but when has your life been torn upside down from any idiotic decision he's made? The answer is never. We've always been comfortable, and it's because of him and his decisions, his big, big decisions. And some of the little decisions might be idiotic still, but that's on his paper. That's not on my paper. That's his paper. And to really also look beyond, remember why you married him, and, write that list. Because once I wrote that list, I was like, God, why am I so angry? And I think that helped too, is realizing that he's still the man that I love and married and wanted to be with. It was me that had changed. And so I think I would tell her, make sure you're looking within first. Cause look in the mirror, cause it might not be him that's the problem. It possibly is you. But
It's that's powerful. I love that you made the list of things, the reasons you chose him, the reasons you fell in love. And it sounds like they were all still there.
Yeah, they all were. They true, and then some. Because seeing him became a dad added a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
That I couldn't have dreamed of before. So yeah. So it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
Yes.
What do you think you would say to yourself if you could go back in time and tell Emma what you know now? What would you say to her?
If I could go back in time, if I could go back to when, I guess, when we got engaged, because I remember we fought over, guest lists and just these silly decisions. And I guess I would look at myself and say, girl, get it together. These decisions are not important. There is bigger. You have a man in front of you who loves you, and that's all that matters. Not a guest list and not adding and getting, the right cake and the right DJ and the right location, and none of that matters. And just look at where you've come and look at him standing in front of you and appreciate him for what he's bringing to the table, and don't doubt his decisions to create a comfortable life, and listen to him, because sometimes he has really good advice, things that I thought he was an idiot for. So maybe I think I would tell her also to listen to your hairstylist when she offers you to read a book. Don't think that you're too good or good enough for it. So I think that's what I would tell her. Don't be too proud to read a book. That might help in the long run.
Well, and you weren't. You really weren't, because we're talking right now, right? If you hadn't had that humility, has he ever acknowledged or said anything like that you have changed?
Yes. So, yes. And I did admit to him that I read this book. I admitted to him towards the end of summer, because he was like, I got to listen to this podcast. Well, I kept fibbing, telling him it was a different podcast. And so he started listening to that podcast, and I was like, okay, he's off my trail. But then he'd be like, well, what episode did you, there's a million episodes. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I just kept listening to these. And so he kind of figured me out. And so I kind of had to, I felt bad like lying outwardly. So I was like, well, if I'm being honest, I read this book, but it's only for women to read. Like, you do, like, the point of it is, and I told him the point was to work on yourself and to build your relationships from within instead of making it an outward problem. I said, so it wouldn't work because he's like, well, maybe he loves reading self-help, self-improvement books.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves listening to those types of podcasts too. And so I told him, he was like, well, maybe I should read it. And I was like, no, that's not what you want to do. So, and he, every once in a while, he'll be like, I think I need to read that book again still, because I'll have a reaction to something very calmly, which he's not used to. And so every once in a while, he'll be like, I think I need to read that book. What are they telling you?
So what he's really saying is, like, Emma, you're really incredible. I see a big transformation in you. Yes. I see how calmly you're responding to something that could have been a fight in the battle.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's patting you on the back.
He is. And we joke. It's, we joke about it every once in a while. Because he knew for a while I would just do this, like cover my mouth and just be like, nope. He'd be like, what do you want to say? I said, no, I don't want to say anything. And he'd be like, what are you? I was like, no, I'm pretending I have duct tape. And for a while, that's what I would say to him. So now he realizes it's from the book. And now he'll be like, are you duct taping right now? I said, yes, I am. Yes, I am. He'll call it out every once in a while. But he hasn't read it. And I think he's kind of like amazed that I have come this far. Because like you said, certain things he would wait for me to like react. And I now usually don't. Or I react in a very different way than he's used to from the past, 11 years. So yeah.
So you've definitely changed. We can see that very clearly. Has he changed also?
Excellent question. To be honest, I don't know that he had to change. He is still the very level-headed, supportive, loving husband that he's always been. I think I'm just choosing to finally appreciate it so much more and so much better than I ever did before. I could argue that he's changed because now it's like he knows he can anticipate my needs. And like, I felt like maybe before he never could, but sometimes I'm like looking back, I'm like, well, no, he would sometimes tell me like, just go do something by yourself. Go to the grocery store by yourself. I remember he did this when we had our first baby, and I'd be like, that's not self-care, which to be fair, it's not.
Yeah.
But sometimes, unless you enjoy it, but sometimes it would just be the time alone that I needed versus, the actual act of going to run an errand by myself,
Yeah, you get some solitude instead of starting again. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I don't know that he's changed. I think he's just mirroring my changes that I have done to myself. And so I don't think he's changed. It's more just maybe I'm magnifying all the good he's been doing all along, and I'm just able to see it more clearly. So,
wow. Well, it's awesome. I'm impressed. It's an incredible transformation. And I think in some ways, in your situation, like you weren't in a crisis, you weren't on the brink of divorce, your marriage wasn't completely falling apart. I think in some ways it is harder to reach for a book like The Empowered Wife, or to find that humility to apologize for being disrespectful because there's no crisis. So I admire that so much. And I do want to, in fact, I want to present to you.
Oh my God.
Yes, you've gotten the Best Wife Award. Well earned for just really focusing on like being your best self and bringing out the best in your husband and the best in your daughter, and just the best in your whole family. And so congratulations on just being a beacon of hope for what's possible in your family, and having so many great stories to illustrate about how you applied the skills, and how anyone who's got a lot of humility and courage could also do it. So congratulations, Emma.
Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I think, like you said, no crisis, but it could have really become one if I let that resentment build about the job. So I thank you and my hairstylist for recommending it and for me finally for reading it and really putting in the work. So thank you.
And for sharing it with other people. You sound like a future coach, probably.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Some days I don't know that I'm there.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, thankfully it does not mean that you're perfect at using these skills. It's just, but you're passionate about them, and you are sharing them with other people, which is usually a sign that it's kind of landed on you, and and you'll always want to be part of this community. And today you made a huge contribution to ending world divorce by sharing your story with us. So it's been very inspiring.
Thank you. I hope if it just helps someone out there, I hope that they know there's something they can do to help their marriage and hopefully make it last.
Fantastic. For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.